All right, let's jump right into today's explainer by completely rethinking everything we thought we knew about the simple act of saying thank you. Usually, when we hear the word gratitude, we think of a quick, polite word of thanks for a gift or maybe just a fleeting, warm feeling of appreciation. But today, we're unpacking the source material on the Quranic concept of shukr, and as we'll see, it is vastly more profound than just having good manners. You know, the modern English idea of gratitude really kind of misses the mark here. Viewing it merely as a polite courtesy fundamentally limits our understanding. It barely scratches the surface. True gratitude in this context isn't just an emotion, it's a completely different lens through which to view reality itself. So Shukr is an active architectural framework for perceiving the world. It literally means bringing the truth of a blessing out into the open light. And its exact opposite in this theological context is Kufr, which means covering, concealing, or denying that truth. Basically, you are either exposing the reality of what you've been given, or you're hiding it. Now, this architecture of Shukra requires a very precise sequence. Think of it like a three-step formula. First, you must actually notice and recognize the gift. Second, you have to correctly identify where it truly came from. And finally, you have to deploy it exactly as it was intended to be used. If you miss any one of these three steps, the whole structure collapses. That brings us to Section 1, recognizing the true source. To truly understand this paradigm shift, we have to look at where our blessings actually originate. Our daily lives are absolutely flooded with unearned gifts that have become entirely invisible to us simply because we're so used to them. Your sight, your hearing, the intellect you're using right this very second, even the rain outside or the security of your home. Literally, all human capability begins with gifts we did absolutely nothing to earn. Sure, it's super easy to pat ourselves on the back and point to secondary causes. We love to credit our own intellect, our grueling hard work, or a lucky break for our success. But the source material challenges us to look much deeper with a really profound question. Where did those causes themselves come from? I mean, who authored the intellect, the energy, and the circumstances in the very first place? The answer is beautifully laid out in this verse. Whatever blessing you have, it is from Allah. This immediately redirects our attention away from the shiny gift sitting right in our hands, straight back to the ultimate giver. It completely shatters the modern illusion of the entirely self-made individual. And this brings us to something really fascinating. It introduces one of Allah's names, Ash-Shakur, meaning the most appreciative. Remarkably, appreciation itself is described as a divine quality. Just think about the sheer magnitude of that for a second. The divine needs absolutely nothing from creation, yet actively appreciates our small, sincere human efforts by multiplying their reward. It completely flips our standard understanding of appreciation on its head. Moving right along to Section 2, when gratitude becomes action. You see, recognizing the source is really only the beginning. Taking that thought in your mind and moving it out into the physical world is captured in this explicit command to the family of David. Work in gratitude. Notice the phrasing there. It doesn't say, feel grateful. It commands us to work gratefully. Your physical actions, your literal movements, and your daily choices become your actual lived thank you. Let's break this down because every single blessing carries a pretty heavy responsibility. If you've been given the blessing of knowledge, your gratitude is using it truthfully. If you have wealth, your shukr is using it generously. Strength means protecting the weak. Taking any of these gifts and using them against their intended purpose isn't just a mistake. It is literally the ultimate form of ingratitude. You have to put the blessing to work properly. Which leads us to Section 3, navigating hardship and abundance. Look, life obviously isn't always a steady stream of obvious blessings. It's a constant fluctuation, right? Sometimes you have way too little, and other times you have a lot. Here we have two companion virtues, patience, or sabr, which navigates hardship, and gratitude, or shukr, which navigates abundance. These are essentially two sides of the exact same spiritual coin, and both require the wisdom to see far beyond your temporary circumstances. And when you successfully navigate that abundance with gratitude, there's actually a massive guarantee built into this. If you are grateful, I will surely increase you. It's almost like a formula of spiritual physics. True gratitude practically guarantees growth. But pay close attention to the nature of that promised increase. The text doesn't specify exactly what will multiply. Yeah, sometimes the physical blessing itself grows. You get more wealth or better health. But other times, It's your actual capacity to find peace, your deep wisdom, or your contentment that multiplies. The increase takes the exact shape of whatever it is you truly need. Now, let's look at Section 4, the danger of forgetting. Honestly, maintaining this high level of spiritual awareness is incredibly difficult. The text observes with striking clarity, few of my servants are truly grateful. True thankfulness is statistically rare. Why? Because it demands a rigorous, frankly exhausting combination of awareness, humility, and restraint that most of us simply bypass while we're busy enjoying the gifts we've been given. Here's the catch. You don't actually have to be a loud, vocal complainer to be ungrateful. Simply forgetting where your gifts came from, taking them for granted, or misattributing your success entirely to yourself, that is more than enough to fall into Kufr, the opposite of Shukr. It's a silent, almost imperceptible drift away from reality. The ultimate danger of that exact drift is perfectly illustrated in the tragic story of Karun. When confronted with his immense, legendary wealth, Karun famously claimed, "I was only given this because of knowledge I possess." His fatal error wasn't being wealthy. It was his absolute arrogance in misattributing that wealth entirely to his own intellect, completely severing the blessing from its ultimate source. And finally, Section 5, a transformative mode of living. Understanding all of this shifts our entire worldview, moving us from passive receivers to conscious participants. Let's get one thing absolutely straight about the mechanics here. Allah gains 0 from Ash-Shakur. The text says, whoever is grateful only for his own benefit. This entire architectural system of gratitude is designed exclusively to elevate and save our own souls. By actively practicing Shukr, we actually rewire our own psychology. We trade in that exhausting, never-ending treadmill of greed and self-sufficiency for deep closeness to the divine. We gain profound humility instead of arrogance, lasting contentment instead of endless craving, and expansive generosity instead of hoarding greed. This framework completely transforms gratitude from just a fleeting emotion into an all-encompassing mode of living. We move from just saying a quick thank God after a good meal to viewing every single breath, every capability, and every human relationship as a sacred trust. It turns us from mere consumers of blessings into faithful, active stewards of reality. Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway of today's explainer. Now that you know you are a steward holding temporary gifts, that absolutely nothing is an entitlement, the only question left is, what are you going to do with what you've been given today? Seriously, how will you spend your very next blessing?